I'm Dr. Yvette Kennedy, and I am the mother of four college graduates, four children. All of them graduated from college, and three of them got full scholarships. The scholarship that they got was the Gates Millennial Scholarship that paid for 10 years of their college um, education. And the Gates Millennial, we were blessed. We were just blessed because sometimes, there are not that many people who get the Gates, let alone three children from the same family. So what happened was I thought that it was all kind of normal at first, but I've realized that since then, um, it's not. That was over $2 million worth of scholarship funds that we raised. And like I said, to God be the glory. But what happened was I was intentional about doing things for my children so that they could get an edge, an upper edge on college applications, scholarship applications, and things like that. So I found out after I had grandchildren that it really started when they were little because I was fortunate enough to be home with our children and I did not know how to do just baby things. So what I did was I started teaching them things. I started teaching them the things that um, I would do, whatever I was doing, I would tell them about it and teach them. And our outings for fun were going to things like story time and at the library, and they still have story times at the library that you can go to. If you are home during the day, they have story times, and some libraries will have story times in the afternoon. You just have to look for your county library and find out what it is and what their schedule is for their 2 to 3 year old story time people. So, or children and or actually is pre-K. So they have a group generally, well, in my county, they have a group that is for like 0 to 2 years old, and then from 2 to 5 or 3 to 5. So you can go to your local library and they have story time there. And what that does is it gets your children accustomed and interested in reading. And reading or early literacy is one of the things that will help your child to love learning. Okay. I was asked the question the other day. It was kind of like a riddle, I guess. They said, well, why do you think these little boys who are in the third and fourth grade read? And I'm looking for I said, because they learned when they were little or because someone taught them how to read. And it was actually the answer that person was looking for was it's because they can. Okay. If you can't read, you're not going to want to read. Okay. Makes sense, right? If you can't read very well, then that's not going to be the first thing that you do, pull out a book and start reading it or whatever it is. Okay. My little grandsons and granddaughters, they read the signs on the streets and they range from the time that they were two on up until today. They read street signs, they read signal signs like the stop sign. And that was developed at a very early age because we taught them how. So then it was normal for them to read. Okay. That was just the norm. So when it's the norm, your child will read and your child will have good literal literacy skills. Okay. So anyway, I was back to the gates. The reason I think that my children got the gates, number one, it was the grace of God. But number two, he allowed me to be there with them to teach them and to be able to emphasize certain things. Now, if you're not home with your children, that's fine. Whoever is the caregiver, you need to talk to the caregiver and see what the caregiver is doing. And if the caregiver is not doing what you would like, the things that I am telling you only take about an hour a day. They only take about an hour a day. And on the weekend, you can have a weekend field trip with your child and you're bonding with that child. And this starts very early in life. A lot of you think, say, well, I just don't know what to do. Well, I'm trying to give you some information on things that you can do with your preschooler, with your 6 month old, with your newborn, things that you can do that will not only make them have a love for learning, but it will also give you bonding time with your child. Okay. So, with that being said, I have been going over things that I do with my 14-month-old now. Yeah, so things that I do with him because I keep him on a regular basis. And what I impart in him, I want to share with others because when my children were little, it was difficult to find out what things were going on because sometimes people did not want to tell you. And it it kind of discouraged me, but I was persistent and they told me some of the things that they were doing. Now, this was when my children were in middle school and high school. Well, middle school. After middle school, I figured out how to figure it out myself. But sometimes you just need a little push in the right direction. So, for my 14-month-old today, today was a really good day. I had four four little ones today. And how about it? It worked out. So, with that, I said, okay, this was pretty interesting, but it was controlled. So it went very well. Now, I must tell you, I had the right tools to keep all four engaged at the same time. And those tools were I have a large playpen that I would put one of the 14-month-old, I would put him in there, and then the 11-month-old, I would put her in the a bouncer. It's a baby bouncer. And so with that, I could maneuver with the older two. The older two were 4 and 6. So they're kind of self-contained. They will do things a lot easier on their own. So, but I wanted to make sure I got some education in for all of them. So, after eating, okay, even while they were eating with the little ones, I was feeding them. They're in their high chairs, and the older ones were sitting at a little table with a child table with child chairs. And so, this is what happened. This is what happened. Um, I had the infants, I'll just say infants. I had the infants or toddlers. I had them, they were watching the ABC 13, no, not the ABC, they were watching preschool prep. Preschool prep, meet the letters. Okay, where it goes in and it tells them A, B, C, and it shows the letters. So, and then it has the letters doing little cartoon like things. So they were watching that, and the older ones were sitting at the table and they were eating as well, but they were watching it too. And I was pretty interested because I figured they would be just not interested at all because it was so, they already knew it all. But they started giving conversation about the different things that were happening. Like, for instance, one of the letters T is a tree, and one of the letters H is in the shape of a house. And so the 6-year-old says, "Hey, Gigi," he said, "You know what? I saw a house that was shaped like an H." He said, "I saw it. It was over on wherever he saw it." And I said, okay, yeah, that's interesting because there's a house that's shaped like an H on here too. He said, yeah, that's what I saw. That made me remember it. And so, they pick things up, even though it is elementary to them and they know those things very well and they read. It worked out well. And even with the numbers, we did the preschool prep meet the numbers level one. It was 1 through 10. And they have these really nice little cartoons that do things for you. But check it out. Check it out because it's really good. And so then they were describing the mechanisms of the different cartoons that they had. Like the number 10 was a bulldozer and he was pushing rocks. So they started telling me, oh, it takes a lot of pressure to push those rocks. Look, how many rocks are they pushing? And so, they got things out of that we could talk about while the little ones were watching and learning their ABCs and learning their letters and learning their numbers. The older ones were able to analyze and get more out of it. Okay, so that's uh that's what I got out of that. So that was breakfast time. So while I was still feeding the younger ones, and no, I'm not a teacher per se. I'm not educated as a teacher. I am educated as an eye doctor, but I retired early to raise my children, and I have kind of fallen into it. So I did teach on a college level, but I decided to stop doing that because it's easier to teach children. And they're like sponges. So, and the only reason it's easier, though, the only reason that it's easier is that the child does not have to unlearn things that they have already learned. Okay, so in that aspect, yes, I am a teacher, um, but not by education or profession. Okay. Professionally, I am in the medical field, a medical doctor. So, with that being said, and I hope that answered your question, but I have found that I am very, very effective with my children and my grandchildren because with my grandchildren, I am being very, very, very intentional with just to see how much they can learn without, pushing it on them, but so that they can get as much as they can because their little brains from 0 to 3 year old, their brains make 1 million connections per second. So that's a whole lot. Okay, so those time frames in their lives are very, very, very critical because that's going to shape the rest of their life and their memories and things like that. So so that was breakfast. Okay. So after breakfast, I had promised the 4 and 6 year old that they could play with the race cars. Okay. So the race cars, I have this here. This is, uh, it's Picasso tiles. And they can make all sorts of neat little things, little race tracks or for the cars. And I don't have the cars down here, but anyway, they love playing with it. And they can it's magnetic, and they can play with it by themselves and build some really good things. And so the 6 and the 4 year old like to do this. So I said, okay, so I will let them play with those toys while I finish with the songs that I sing with the toddlers. So the toddlers are still in their high chairs, and I start singing the songs. And my 6 year old comes over and he says, Gigi, can I sing too? Now, these are songs that he learned when he was 1 and 2 years old, but he still likes them. So he came over, and I think it's because they're action songs. So the first song that we did today was The Wise Man. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood firm. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. And I have the toddlers. They do the sand for me. Okay. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. And the house on the sand went sham. And I'm just running through these really, really fast because if you've seen me before, you probably have seen some of these songs. So it's not that I'm just being repetitious. Well, I am being repetition because I'm trying to go over with you the things that I do with my grands when on that day so that you can incorporate it with your children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews or the children you care for. So that's why I run through this really quickly each time. So we did the wise man, then we did where is the man, okay? And that's, the finger song where you identify each finger on your hands, okay? So I won't go through that one, but where is the man? And then my 6-year-old also wanted to do that one. And what I found out, okay, was the 6-year-old and the 4-year-old. Now, about this time, the 4-year-old was ready to go play with the cars. But I said, no, you're going to do this. And guys, ladies, I want to tell you, when you tell your child to do something, okay, make sure they're not hungry. Make sure that they are not sleepy. And make sure that they have been to the bathroom, okay? And if it's a toddler, that you have changed their diaper. But and make sure they don't have a fever and they're not sick, okay? Now, I preface what I'm about to say with all of those things, okay? Because when you tell your child to do something, you are the adult, okay? And they may want to do something else, but you tell them, okay, you can do that after we do this, okay? So a lot of times I see the young parents who their child says, no, I don't want to do that. And they say, okay, baby, you can go and do this. I really don't agree with that, okay? When you tell your child to do something, you have to be direct enough to make sure that they follow through, okay? So I told him, I said, no, we're going to do this right now. So he sat and he did it. He did it for a while. He did it. And then the 6-year-old, he was like all into it. But what I found out, guys, this is what I found out. Like I said, I've been doing this with them for a long time, but the dexterity in their fingers are not all the way developed a lot of times. So even with my 6-year-old, when he did the thumb man, okay, like it says, where is thumb man? Where is thumb man? Here I am. How are you today, sir? Very well, thank you. Run away, run away. Okay, and I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm doing it because of the fact that my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old were having problems. Okay, they could do pointer man, okay? And then ring man, oh, it's so fun. I mean, middle man, this is so funny. My 6-year-old says, I can't do that, Mommy. I can't do that, Gigi. That's bad. That's bad. So I said, well, you're doing it like this. I said, you're not doing it the bad way. So we bent his fingers and he did it, okay? Now, when they got to ring man, it was very challenging for them to do ring man, okay? So I had to help them and show them how to hold all the fingers down so that that one would be left up. So I helped them with that. And do you know, it was a learning experience for them, something that I thought, they already knew how to do, but not really. So we did, where is ring man? Where is ring man? And when I do that, I tell them, okay, this is ring man because this is the ring finger you wear your ring on. I don't have my wedding ring on, but this is the finger. So then when we got to pinky, okay, the 4-year-old still had a problem with pinky, but the 6-year-old, he could put it up really fast. But the 4-year-old, I had to teach him how to hold these with his thumb. And their little fingers are so tiny, but I had to show them how. So that was a learning experience, and they also got dexterity with it, okay? So That's how that was done. Okay. So we did that one, Thumb Man. And then my 6-year-old says, can I have one? He said, does it have to be a baby song? And I said, no, you can do whichever one you want. Guess what he decided he wanted to do? He wanted to do Higher, Higher. And I went over this one time a while back, but I'll go over it again because he really, really, really had a good time with it, and he wanted to do it. So I'll share it with you. And this is my 6-year-old. And so he said, oh, so the song is Higher, Higher. Okay. And this is how it goes. Higher, 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 higher. Lift, lift Jesus higher. Let's go lower, lower, lower. And then you bend down. It was down to the ground, guys. Lower, 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 lower. Stomp, stomp, Satan, lower. And then the next part says super, 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 supernatural power. And then the last part, lift Jesus higher, stomp, stomp Satan lower, super, supernatural power, super, supernatural power. And he had the best time. So these things that have hand movements are, they they withstand the test of time. And I was kind of surprised, but my 6-year-old loved it. And the toddlers were looking and into it, kind of raising their hands and things like that. So these songs are really, really good. And you guys, I am I am so excited because I write songs, okay? And I did my first recording, and it'll come out soon. It'll come out soon. And so, anyway, just give you that little tidbit there. And when it comes out, I will let you know. So, next. So, those were the songs that we sang. Those were the songs we sang. Then, after that, while the toddlers were still before the songs, while the toddlers were still eating, I incorporated what are called tiny polka dots. And I usually start them with this when they are maybe between 1 and 1.5 years old. Okay. So my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old have been playing with these since then. So this is a little math game that I have, and it has different colors of cards. And when I first start out with the children, I start out with this deck, the blue. I just start out with these and we start counting them. So it has different dots on it. I'll show you. These are still kind of mixed up from where we were playing earlier. But as they get older, you can start playing a matching game. And that is one of my 6-year-old's favorite games because he likes matching. And back in my day when I was young, we played this, but we played it with a deck of playing cards, and it was called concentration. But we just call it a matching game. They kind of gave it a different name. So these are the cards that I go over with them. And they have each number, like that one's 4, 3, and up to 10, and it starts with 0. So it has 0. So it's a very good visual. And this is just one set of the cards, but they have, I think, five or six different sets of it. But this is what I start out with my 1.5-year-olds or 1-year-olds, and I just start with them counting the dots, 1, 2, 3. And I put their little finger on them and they count the dots, okay? Now, I do this after I've done the number puzzle, okay? After I've done the number puzzle, then I do this. And let's see if I have it here. Well, I've shown you the number puzzle. Yeah. After I've done this puzzle with them for several months, then I start using these, okay? Now, so it has this type of pattern. Then they have some with this type of pattern, okay? And they have some with this type of pattern, and all of these go from 0 to 10. And then let's see what other ones. I didn't really mean to go over all of these, but as I was thinking about what we did today, this was very important in incorporating things for the older children to do while I was still working with the younger children. And they have this type, this type. So they have different patterns. And I've had these cards for about 10 years. 10 years. And then they have with the regular number on it, okay? So for my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old, we played the matching game. And the way you play that is you lay them all face down, and then they pull cards and they try to remember which ones are matches. But this is what I went over with them. This is what I tried to instill in them, is to recognize how many are on there without having to count them. And the more they go over it, the better it is. So like this one, I would say, okay, so the top row has how many? And they'll say 5. And then I say, and the bottom row has how many? And they'll say 2. I said, so what's 5 plus 2? And they come up with it. Now, even my 4-year-old can add, and he's very good at it. And my 6-year-old too. But what I'm trying to get them to do is just notice the pattern, which is good for them developmentally, analytical skills, and things like that. And all of that comes from these little cards. So anyway, we did the matching game. And then after the matching game, I made my own game. After the matching game, what I did was I had these. Oh, and these. Oh, I love these because, okay, so these are dots, and it's kind of hard to count them all. Now, this one's easy because it's 5. But when the numbers get bigger, see if I can find it. Okay, like this one. Okay, count those dots. If you do it like this, 5 blue and 5 green, you count them a whole lot faster, okay? So that's what I'm trying to teach them too. All right, I am from Texas. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. That's what I'm doing is, and I was answering someone who said, where are you from? So that's what I'm doing with them now, my 6 and 4-year-old. I don't have them all the time because they're in school now, but they were on a break. So I love doing these things with them because it just helps me to have more interaction with them, and also for them to learn different things. Okay, so now I'm going to give you one. All right, you ready? How many dots? Okay. Hi. How many dots? Okay, so easy way to do it. How many green and how many blue? 4 green plus 3 blue is 7. So see, it makes it easy. And even with the ones that have like a lot of dots, like this one. So they were able to separate the green and the blue and come up with the right numbers. So we did that today as well. So what I did, after we did the matching game, I went through and we had a speed drill on both of these. And they were competing against themselves, okay? I try not to have too much competition between each other because one of them is very competitive and the other one's just a baby. I mean, he's just 4. So I tried to do things where they compete against themselves. So we went through these, and we did it 3 times, and then we took the best score. And each time they got, well, one time they got really, really good, and then the other 2 times they were distracted. So maybe 3 times was too many. Okay, so we did that. Tiny polka dots. And then I showed you the racetrack. And then, okay, so the babies now are asleep, okay? And the big boys got, well, they got to play with their toy cars and trucks, motor cars, but we did a story time. And this was the best book. It was Gabby's If/Then Garden. And it was just an excellent book. It is by, and okay, this is Black History Month, okay? So it is by a Black author. And her name is Caroline Karanja. And she is a developer and designer who is on a mission to increase accessibility and sustainability through technology. She enjoys figuring out how things work and sharing this knowledge with others. She lives in Minneapolis. And that's her. Okay, so this book, you guys, if you want your child to be a computer coder or anything like that, you gotta get it. You gotta get it because it inspires so many questions, and it puts it so simple how a computer program, how computers are programmed. Okay, and it's the If/Then Garden, and of course I can't read it because I have not gotten permission from the author to read it. But, and by the way, anything that I do read, I have to get permission first, written permission, to read that online unless I'm doing it in a private group setting, like in a Zoom setting. So I will be doing some of those in the future, but for right now, all I can do is tell you about the goodness that I find. And I told you that it was hard for me sometimes to find out about programs and things like that, but that's why I'm sharing everything that I can with you, okay? So this, again, is Gabby's If/Then Garden, and it explores how, kind of like cause and effect, only in the computer world, it is considered as if-then, and if is the condition that occurs, and then is what will happen, what will happen with that condition. So it tells about how computer code is written. So it was just a good book, a very, very, very good book. I cannot emphasize how good this book was. We had a blast, and we even played the game that they played, and we did some if and then, and it gets your child into analytical thinking. Now, this was my 4 and 6-year-old, okay? All right. Now, and I think I told you about, okay, this is another book that is excellent, and it is about an inventor, and it's Abby Invents. I did read one of her books before, and I do have permission. I just am not going to read it today, but I will read this book. I read her other book on the Foldabot, but this is The Unbreakable Crayons, and it is just an amazing book, and it is by Dr. Arlene Simon. Dr. Arlene Simon, and she is an inventor with patented inventions. Okay, I think I've taken up enough of your time tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in, and like I said, I am excited. I just did a recording for some songs that I have written, and I have a book that I'm releasing as well, but I will give you information on that. What I'd like for you to do is contact me if you would. I would like for you to subscribe to my channel and I would like for you to contact me at Dr. Yvette at YvetteKennedy.com. Just um, shoot me an email so that I can put you on my email list so that when those things do come out, I can send you, you'll be one of the first to know. So, anyway, that's it for today. And thank you so much. Bye.